Hello everybody, welcome to my second YouTube video ever. We are going to be talking about a new deck today. I took it recently to a challenge on this past Sunday. I ended up getting third in the standings total. I ended up 2-1-1. Had I won the final round, I would have won the challenge, but unfortunately that did not happen. We'll go over that at the end. We will be talking about the matchups, decks I played into, ways to run this deck. We are talking about En's Zoroark EX today. Very, very strong deck with the trade ability. Trade is broken, and you'll learn that today. And we're going to go over a slideshow, have something visual to help you out. We're just going to be talking about the deck, the key things to look at, just how to try to help you get a better understanding of how to play. Alright, let's go to it. Alright, so we are starting off obviously with the basics. How to play En's Zoroark EX, or the introductory, the title slide. Very good deck. You can see three cards here in front of you. We have En's Reshiram, Hero's Cape, which is my personal favorite ace spec at the moment. Some people do run Unfair Stamp. And then, of course, the big man himself, En's Zoroark. He is very strong. He doesn't attack for so much if you don't know how to use him right, but he is very, very good. Basics of playing the deck. Start off. Going first and second, this deck can play both ways. Going first is really not that bad in this deck because you want to try and just get as many Zoros as you can, Zorua and Zorua down as possible. Turn 2, get some Zoroarks in play, get energies attached, and then you can start controlling the game state from there because you can pretty much draw your whole deck at any time. Well, not any time, but like you can draw so many cards if you just get your Zoroark engine online that throughout the entire game, if you have the knowledge to play, you have enough agency to take over the deck, you will be able to find the plays throughout the game to be able to win. Cyrano and Janine's Secret Art are two of the big include supporters. They're very, very strong, each of them. Cyrano is good for that going first. Then turn 2, you can go grab 2 Zoroarks and a Peacheron EX if you need to, or any combination of EX cards that you need if you need 3 Zoroarks. And then Janine's Secret Art lets you just explode energy onto the board. We do include cards like Energy Switch. So if we go, Janine's Secret Art, we can have an energy attacker who attacks for 3 energy in one turn because we can get that Zoroark, or we can get that Janine's attached, hand attached, and then we can energy switch. Pros and cons of knowing what cards to trade away. Sometimes you'll be, thinking, oh, I have all these spores in my hand, I have to keep them, there's no way to get them back. We do play cards like Palpad, and we draw so many cards that, sometimes we have to really crunch and figure out what cards that we need to discard because there can be very small hands with Zoroark that you need to keep a lot of cards in. So knowing how to weigh what cards to get rid of, what cards are obviously trash, like if you have Buddy Poffin on turn 8 and you have 3 Zoroarks in play, you don't need it. It's super easy to drop, but you've got Ion to the 2, you have 3 cards in hand, and one of them you need to win the game. It really comes down to what you draw into, so you have to know what to get rid of and what not to. And knowing the attackers. There's a lot of different ways to build this deck and how to attack. The main Zoroark himself, usually he caps out at 170 without being damaged, which is not very good, but that's part of it because Reshiram gets to manipulate damage later in the game. So like being able to attack for 170, set up 2 attack knockouts, which in this meta aren't terrible because you're playing into a lot of Charizard and Dragapult, so they're not taking one-hit KOs as much. And the decks that do take one-hit KOs usually are your bad matchups for Zoroark, but you're better into these setup decks that do need to take 2 attacks to knock out. And manipulating the Reshiram damage, because when you take damage with Zoroark, you can double it back to the opponent with Reshiram's second attack. It has 2 attacks, Virtuous Flame for 170, which is just a base attack, and then it has, I think it's called Powerful Rage, where you can do double the amount of damage counters on Zoroark. So you get hit for 200 damage, you can deal 400 in return, which is incredibly strong because 400 damage, most things in this format just die. So it lets you swing the momentum while also being able to just stack damage. Like you can come up, attack a single prize, or you get punched, you survive with 200, you swing back for 400, you're just prize racing your opponent out of the game, and you're drawing all your cards with the Zoroark ability. So manipulating Reshiram damage is a big, big key to winning games with this deck. And knowing when to take 2 swings on something, when to just try and get punched into, bossing around, killing small things, and then hoping to get punched into and living. So most of the time you're not super fast with this deck. The only times you really, really need to get going are against decks like Goldango, because anything that can hit you for 1 attack and knock you out is your worst matchups, and they will race you out of the game. build variants in this, there's a lot of different ways to play Zoroark, and I think that's what makes it fun. If you pick up the core pieces, you have 4N Zora, 4N Zoroark, you can build so many different kinds of decks. Zorolop, using the Mega Lopunny. Mega Lopunny is a very, very strong attacker right now because it has a very good answer to the card Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon that cannot take damage from Pokemon that have abilities, which Zoroark does have one. So in some builds of this Zoroark deck, it's not possible to defeat Cornerstone because of the ability on it, which is why some people have played the Lopunny, and also Lopunny just does have a decent attack damage and has 330 HP. And if you're playing Heroescape, you can have a 430 HP Pokemon that the only thing you need to do is move it to the active spot to deal a bunch of damage, which is not hard to do in this deck at all because you play the engine of Yveltal and Pikarunt EX, both insane cards that combo together, and they work with Lopunny, and they're already in your deck no matter what build you're running. Zoroark and Darmanitan is another ENS Pokemon that you can use to copy, as well as some people just have reversal energy so you can attack with it outright. It allows you to take advantage on some setup decks. I don't think you necessarily need it. I'm not a big fan of it because it does discard energies attached, which is fine for reversal, but if you're needing to use Zoroark to use that attack, it's much less efficient. So I'm not a big fan of Darmanitan. I don't think it's good in this format. I wouldn't play it. But it's definitely something to think about if you are into that, that style, just setting damage, knocking things out on the bench, just sniping. And it does have a good answer to Goldango. It can, with its first attack, it does damage based on energy in your opponent's discard, and in Goldango's weak to fire, so it is a fire type Pokemon. So it can help you fix your matchup in a Goldango. It's kind of hard to do. It is an 80 HP basic, which you need to run heavier counts of things like Artisan and Nest Ball, which does muddy up your deck a lot because you already need to play 4 Poffins. So if you're playing Darmanitan, it just makes your starting bench look a little bit worse. So I don't like that card personally. And the last one, which is the one we'll mainly be focusing on, the one I played, Dark Box Zoro, that comes with Mega Absol and Okidoki. Because those cards can answer a lot of different things if you know how to use them. Okidoki I really like because if you can find a way to punch into some of these Kangaskhan decks that have no HP modifiers. It can do 300 with the tool because it does 100 I think, and then 130 more if it's poisoned. 130 and then 130 more if it's poisoned. So I believe it does 260. And then hold on, let me double check that. But yeah, so you can do 260 into Dango, which is strong because that's just his HP, and they very rarely have modifiers for that. And even if they do, you can use your poison package to give it the tool Binding Mochi to buff it up even further. 130 plus 130 more. So it does do, in fact, 260, which is incredible. Great include for me. I personally really like it over the Darmanitan. The Darmanitan has its places. It is a single prizer, but it does also accelerate energy into play. So if you just somehow come up bricking with Okidoki only active, you can be able to attack with it very early because it poisons itself and attaches energy from deck, which can get you started. And then Mega Absol, in matchups where you can do it for weakness, it's an incredible card. Being able to do Claw of Darkness and then manipulate your opponent's hand is incredibly strong. And Terminal Period, we do have 2 Munkidori's in the deck, but it's much harder to do Terminal Period. But there's definitely scenarios where it could work. It's just a very strong deck, strong card, and then it includes such a strong deck in Zoroark where you can pretty much set up all your energies whenever you want and attack, with all these kind of different options. The Dark Box version is definitely my personal favorite. Here is the list I played to the challenge. I will not take credit for this list. This is not my list. I net decked this off of the list that Vinny Fernandez did well with at LAIC. I won't go into anything further than that. There's accusations against him and such, but that doesn't make his deck list any less valid. It was the one I tested with. So it's incredibly strong. It includes a lot of support Pokemon like Badoo and Cleffa, which helps us advance the game state with smaller one prizers, and being able to draw enough cards. Like if you can get Cleffa set up, there's definitely situations where if you know what you're doing with the deck, you can take chances to go behind to play something like a Cleffa to try and advance your board state, because being able to just cycle through your deck so much with the Zoroark and being able to draw so many cards enforce so many situations in this deck. That's where the strength comes from. It's a lot of an agency-based deck. It's hard to describe, but when you're playing it, it's something you have to feel, because it is the most situational deck I think I've ever played, because every matchup, every situation is different and requires a different approach. But the agency you get from being able to have that many cards in hand is what makes it so strong, because the stronger of a player you are, the stronger the deck will output for you. It's incredibly fun to just go into a matchup and put down something like Okie Dokie, a card that most likely your opponents don't know or don't read, because it's not good in any other situation, any other matchup, but you can hit their Goldango for 260, or you can hit for 300 on a Kangaskhan. And like things like, they know what Absols does, but they're not ready for you to, sit behind a Cleffa, get knocked out. Iono plus Team Rocket Stadium, one of the strongest cards in the whole deck. Team Rocket Stadium is hands down one of the best cards in the format. And when you place down Team Rocket Stadium, there's tons of matchups where you can just turn off their chances to even win the game, because there's tons of Pidgeot and Knockdown Engineer. So if you can find a way to get Team Rocket's Watchtower plus Iono, it does just lock games down almost immediately, because sometimes people will play for their board state to have Pidgeot only and like some knockdown stuff, so they feel safe, and they play their hand in a way that's more greedy, and then you hit them with the combo of that plus Iono. They cannot move, they cannot do anything, and then you can just swing out from there, because you have so many options at attackers too, that you can start manipulating their hand with Claw of Darkness. It's just such a options-based deck. And we do run things like Turo and Penny, so even when you overbench, you have tons of ways to out yourself. There's so many things in this deck that make it incredible. I see now my webcam is blocking. We do have 2 Energy Switch in the deck. Energy Switch, again, really good combo with Janine's Secret Art. Ton of good solid supporters playing 3 Iono. And then having a ton of uses of these supporters with Palpad. Palpad being able to discard so many cards and draw so many cards, being able to use, rely on Palpad to be able to bring things back for you, like we'll talk about in a second in the matchups section, where I talk about the matchups. The final game in the challenge, I resolved Iono 4 times and I only play 3, because Palpad is that strong and it gives you the option to just keep going. Like Boss, in the one game, there was 2 bosses in my discard. I had never used Boss. I needed Boss to win. I was able to Palpad back, and then I was able to Boss twice to try and win the game. It's an incredibly strong tool to have for Palpad. There's just so many different ways this deck can get to you. So it's a hard deck to play into as well. Even some solid, very solid players who do know your strategy will have difficult times around the situations you'll put them with Yveltal and with a Caped Zoroark. Caped Zoroark doesn't really die to things like Dragapult plus Dusknoir, because that's only doing 330 damage. You have 380 HP. So you have ways to just build in a wall with a Zoroark, and then if they ever get, like, they feel like they can just punch it, you double damage back into them. So that is where the main strength of the deck comes from. It's very tank based sometimes, and it's also very options based. It's got very many options with like the box, and you can attack with things like Fez, and it's just very heavy on agency, which I do love about a deck. So your main strategy is just getting your correct attacker for the matchup, swinging into stuff, tanking back, and just using Iono and Watchtower to shut games down. It's incredibly strong. Some cards to consider. If you really feel like your locals has a lot of Goldango, Toadscroll is definitely a way to go. Pairing that with TM Evo, some people really like to do that because they can play Arven, and Arven's a very strong card, obviously, and it lets you just force plays going second. It does force you to go second more, though, if you do run a build like that, but some people like that. And N's Castle, I do see quite a bit of people playing that, because if you would rather just always have an option to just have a stadium that can move your guys around, especially if you play Darmanitan, N's Castle is very good if you play Darmanitan. So there's just tons of different options. Like, there's the whole card in the supposed archetype for N's Castle that I don't even have, and you can play an entirely different version with that card. So that's what the main best thing about this deck is that for 170 damage you can do a whole hell of a lot, because you have different things on the back burner. Another card to consider I didn't put on here is Psyduck. Even if you are playing Hero's Cape, you can still play Psyduck, but it's not as good. because honestly, you kind of want to force them to not be able to use Dust Bowl anyway, or if they use it, they have to not use it on your active, and they're just like not able to punch your active with the Dust Bowl like combo. But if you are playing Unfair Stamp, which is another card that's very, very strong into this deck list, if you want to switch that out, if you play Psyduck, you can prevent the big Dust Noir plays by just having it, and you don't need to worry about having Hero's Cape to attach. So there's also that option, just playing Psyduck plus Unfair Stamp, because Unfair Stamp is an insane draw plus disruption card for just an item. That's like the main extra things you can consider in the deck. There's not very many other options. But there is just, I mean, there's so many. Like we talked about Grimstar last time. There's one set way to build this. Zoroark is not that way. And we're getting new cards soon that will increase the playability of this deck. This deck is soon going to take over the format. So if you're not trying to learn it now, I think you're a little bit behind. It's very, very good. And then next we're going to talk about all the matchups I personally played and the way I navigated them. It's very interesting. I did play against a grass deck, so we'll talk about that. And we'll go to it right now. Alright. So for the matchups, I think it ended up being a challenge with 12 people, 10 Masters, 2 Seniors. I'm in the Masters division, obviously. Round 1, we paired into Gardevoir. Very good matchup for us. We do love to see that. Unfortunately, it didn't go very well. Our opponent did brick out very bad for them. It didn't go well for them. You don't really want to have that happen. You want to have a competitive game. But in a best of 1 scenario, this is going to happen. We just set up Absol. We attacked on turn 2 right away, so we started manipulating their hand. We eventually did get knocked out because we had poisoned the Absol, so it had taken quite a bit of damage, and then they punched it with the Ansi. But at that point, I just needed 1 prize card. I went boss knockout for the win. It was very, very open and shut game. Unfortunately, my opponent just wasn't allowed to play. It didn't really come down to skill or anything. It just sometimes you open unplayable, and it's just how it goes. And then round 2 is where I really thought I was going to lose very fast in the challenge. I ended up pairing into Mega Venusaur, who had just beaten a Charizard the round before, and we are weak to that grass type as Zoroark, which is really, really unfortunate. So I thought I was going to have a very, very quick loss. Fortunately, though, we started Monkey Dory, and they started using the bind down attack of Venusaur to deal 10 damage and retreat lock us. So we were able to just hide in the back lines, draw a bunch of cards, and set up 40 damage on an Ogerpon. And then I went boss, knock out a small guy, and then knock out a small guy. And then eventually they got Venusaur up and knocked me out, and we evened out in prizes. But then I was able to use Palpad, recycle boss, and then I went boss, kill a Ogerpon with the Zoroark attached with the Binding Mochi. So I was able to do 210 and knock it out from full HP, and then I was able to boss knock out the 40 damaged Ogerpon, and then I was able to win the game. It was very, very tight though, because at any point, if my opponent just has Venusaur early, they can just start swinging on me. But I was able to control the game state. Luckily, they did give me a lot of damage with the bind down, trying to stall me out of the game, which I don't necessarily think was the correct play, but we were able to play into it perfectly. We got the outs, and we were able to defeat the grass deck without even attacking Venusaur once, which felt great. Honestly, we just kind of had to avoid Venusaur. You cannot attack into Venusaur. Venusaur is very much not a good matchup, and it sucks having to play into that. Luckily, I guess, like I said, we were able to win. We were able to navigate it correctly. And it's just because I think Venusaur in general is just a slow deck, because they need, 8 or 9 Pokemon cards. Just Pokemon, not even like supporters, items, nothing. They just need Pokemon to even play. So it does go very, very slow. Round 3, we paired into Charizard with just Pidgeot, no like Hoot Hoots or anything, not the Terra version. Just good old Charizard Pidgeot. This is the game we ended up tying. I started out incredibly slow. I started with Absol in the active, and it just got... I was able to attack with it once, but it was into a Zard who had already punched me, and then he took 3 prizes right away. I was able to slowly march my way back. We ended up at 1 prize to 1 prize, but time got called. No, I had 2 and he had 1. And I punched a Zard, but it didn't end up mattering because he couldn't take the 1 swing on me. Because I had the Hero's Cape on it. Yeah, I had 380 HP. He can't attack and kill me. He didn't have a way to get boss out and win. And then because it was his Dusclops was prized. The only way he could have won, he had Duskull, and he could have used Dusclops to do to my active and then punch me with Charizard, and that would have done enough to knock me out for the 380. But unfortunately, he was not able to do so. And then we both ended up tying because it had gone into time, and I couldn't win and he couldn't win. And then I ended up being 2-0-1 into the final round and playing the other person who was the other undefeated person who was 3-0. I ended up playing against Charizard with the Knockdown engine, and I was very confident going into this matchup. I started out by using Yveltal with the Mochi attached, and I pushed it up, and I was doing, he had started Fez and attached an energy to it, but my turn 2, I Yveltal'd it for 60. I did that 3 times before he was forced to Dust Noir it before I could take a 2-prize knockout with just Yveltal, which I then punched it into Zoroark. He had used 2 Dust Noirs, he had used one to kill a Munkidor I had, because I was moving the poison damage around from Pika Runt, and he had used it to kill my Yveltal. So I just punched into the Fez with the remaining HP. We ended up being, I had 2 prizes remaining. Ended up being, he took a 2-prize knockout with a boss on my Pika Runt, and I obviously couldn't one-shot his Charizard, because he had done no damage to me. I was able on my last turn to go Iono, or I played Team Rocket Stadium, Iono, and I attacked his Charizard. He had one Iono to 1 card in his hand. And he has it's dead card on the last turn. If he passes, I immediately win the game. He flips the top card of his deck, and it was Area 0, and he was able to use Pidgeot to search boss and win the game, because I had Hero's Cape at that point on my active Zoroark. So without that, I would have been able to attack and win the challenge, but unfortunately the very next card he flipped was Area 0, put it down, search boss, and I did lose. But it became oh so very close to getting that win. It would have been nice to get it win, but I really like the opponent I was playing against. He's a good friend, I would say at this point. He's one of the people who, every time I play him, it's just an insane game, so it was great. I had a great time. It was a very fun game. I ended up getting second, getting a like a Mega Kangaskhan EX box thing all sealed. I kept it sealed. I do like to keep my stuff sealed. See here. Over like the last, I think 3 weeks, I've been keeping my stuff sealed. I have a big pile that I just have in my room of packs, and I rip them, like especially the prize packs. I rip one every now and again when I'm bored. But yeah, it's been really fun recently playing Pokemon, and I really enjoyed playing Zoroark. If you want me to do a video on all the other builds, I can. I have personally tested those, but this is just the one I've tested. And like I said, the main strengths of the deck are 1, being able to draw your whole deck, manipulate how many cards you can have and how many plays you can make using Team Rocket Stadium to shut off all these colorless Pokemon that are in the format, and then being able to tank damage and put 200 back on your opponent. So it's incredibly strong. Love playing the deck. And I just hope, you guys are enjoying. We'll go to the outro. Alright, that is going to be the end of the video for today. I hope you did enjoy. If you have any questions, like I said, just drop them down in the comments. Love to hear it. I'm just trying to do stuff for fun. I'm making videos, enjoying the game. If you have anything you want to add or say, feel free to in the comments. And, if you did enjoy, please like, comment, and subscribe. Alright, thank you. Have a nice day.